All right, good morning. Welcome back. This is the I'm Sorry About Last Night podcast. My name is Tom, part of the Social Podcast Network, www.socialpodcastnetwork.com. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are we? I hope everyone's well. Friday. It's the best day, right, of the year. Of the week. It's the one we're looking forward to. Here we are. I don't know where you're at, but man, it is a weather event around here. Rain, rain, rain. My thoughts are with all the folks in Texas. My God, my buddy John, Joe Rogan. I guess I don't know if he's involved in the freeze up and power outages that are going on over there. But my gosh, it's like someone said that 2020 is just carrying right on into 2021. More bad stuff. It's sad. I hope everyone, I think their power's starting to come back on. Brutal. Makes you really feel, grateful for, where, it makes me grateful for what we have, which is, I guess, just electricity at this point. So it is Friday, February 19th, 2021. I did a podcast last night with my buddy Trey Downs. It's called My Superior Self. And it was fun. It's interesting to have a chat with somebody doing somebody else's podcast. Trey Downs is very, very good at what he does in the podcast game. When I first started talking about doing a podcast, another friend of mine, Cameron, said, call my buddy Trey. He's got a big show. So I did. And, Trey, he took some time and chatted with me. And, was just there. Just gave me some words. He didn't tell me what to do. Didn't tell me how to do it, but just had a lot of supportive things to say. And so yesterday or last night when we did the podcast, I was able to thank him. And we talked about, the Rehoboth Social podcast that I do, which is one small business helping another. And anytime I ever talk about that podcast, it is always about the small business side of it. And I was trying to explain to him last night. Small business is, is great, and it's great to be trying to help other small businesses. But, the main point of that is the helping. Helping, inconveniencing ourselves, stopping what we're doing to help other people. And, I think most people would say, well, I'm always willing to help. And I'm always willing to help as long as it's convenient, right? It's the inconvenient helping that's tough. And so we chatted about that. And then, it's interesting to take a guy like him and get his perspective on things. Where I'm a very spiritual, positive energies, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, it's electricity. And he's right. It's, our body, we fire off electricity in our body. And that's, sensation and energy. But, I don't look at it as much that way, but it is that. So it's fun to have a conversation with him and trying to. I was telling him that how blessed I am to be an alcoholic, and I know that sounds bizarre. Who would want to be an alcoholic? Well, the nice thing about being an alcoholic, at least for me, was that it allowed me to be to work a program, right, to address my issue. My alcohol issue with a 12-step program. It's like the guy at the door. Hey, come on in. Check out what we got. And you're like, okay, I guess I can, right? I'm whatever it is that I need to be to get in the door, right? And then once you get in the door, you get to start working on things. But the fact that it's an Alcoholics Anonymous program, alcohol is the first word. If you don't have an alcohol problem, obviously you're not interested. But if you have an alcohol problem that you're not willing to address, you're probably not interested. But if it gets to the point with that your alcohol has gotten you to I always say shame and guilt changes lives. If you drink too much, I always remember the guy that grabbed the lady's ass at the Christmas party drunk, and he was in the paper, and he'd been arrested, and a few days later he was at a meeting. Shame and guilt changes lives. But when you get to that point, and you decide or you surrender or whatever it is that it gets you through the door, right? And you start working on this program, and if you stick around and you want to get better, or at least you want to try, and you get to experience a 12-step program, it is a life-changing event. It's a life-changing event. I'm like, what happens if it was like, step one, we admitted we were powerless over self, and then our lives had become unmanageable. Or we admitted we were powerless over self, that our lives had become unmanageable because of self. Or we admitted we were powerless over self and that our lives had become unmanageable to everybody else. Well, that'd be a whole different program, right? That would be the Bible. Right? I mean, that would be the Bible. I think the Bible's a 12-step program. In a nutshell, sort of. I mean, it's always trying to diagnose what it is that's bothering us. And talking to my buddy Trey and listening to him, he reminds me of a guy that, and Trey's not struggling, Trey's doing fine, but he's dealing with just daily issues, being a father and a pandemic and, discussion about running and the struggle to run, with little kids because it's so cold out right now. And Trey's thing is he enjoys to run with his daughter. And, it's just all these things, right? And it starts to undermine our world. It's like, I can't get these things done. And I told him last night, I go, the only problem I have today is me not getting what I want. Me being inconvenienced. Unless it was the time I fell off the devil's chariot and landed on my back and felt like I broke every bone in my body. Didn't break a single bone, but I think I disconnected them all. That's a different kind of problem. That's an actual physical problem. But as far as just mental, my only problems today are me just not getting what I want, me being inconvenienced. And, talking to him and listening to him and sharing my philosophy, or not my philosophy, what I've learned through a 12-step program, which has allowed me to notice these things, I was able to share with him. But that's only because I'm an alcoholic, right? I had to. I mean, I don't have to. It's a choice, but in my mind, I had to. I had to do this because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore. Being an alcoholic gives you the key to come in the room to work on these programs, to work on these steps and work on ourselves. But not doing that, you don't get exposed to any of this stuff. Building a relationship with the higher power, trusting in the higher power, turning it over, physically saying it. Like when the shit gets real, you got to start praying out loud, dear God. I had a lady in my salon the other day, and she's talking about her new career, and she's like, dear God, please give me this sale. And I go, why pray that? I know, I don't mean that, but she did. I mean, it's like, and that's me. Well, that was me. God, Santa. Same thing in my book. God, please give me this sale. And I was started to try to tell her or share with her the right way to pray. Like I'm a professional prayer, or I'm the, go-to guy when it comes to knowing how to pray. I don't know how to pray. I know one thing about praying, I don't ask for anything. I just expose it and put it out there. Dear Lord, my shoulders aren't big enough. I'm turning it over to you. That prayer right there has been a savior. Don't pray for anything. Recognize your fear, put it out there, and let it go. Dear Lord, my shoulders aren't big enough. I'm afraid. I'm turning it over to you. Amen. It's about the attempt, not the outcome. But prior to coming to the program, it was about the outcome, not the attempt. I had no idea. It's that battle between self-centered fear and humility. How do you make humility? Do the opposite of the self-centered fear. I shared to him, meetings about my philosophy about meetings. Meetings should suck. Meetings shouldn't be that fun. It shouldn't be. If you're having more fun at a meeting than you were before you got there, you've now just attended a social event. And if you are new and you're into it, do it. Absolutely. It's sometimes the first time we've had a social event in our lives. Absolutely do it. But understand, it's about being inconvenienced. That's the medication. But I only learned that through going to meetings and working the steps. You know what taught me that? When you had to do your fifth step with somebody in person and you had to say it out loud. I'm like, why do you have to do that? Because it sucks. It should be a pain. Meetings should be a pain It should be an inconvenience. You should be loving what you're doing at home and drag yourself away from the amazing life at home and go suffer for an hour at a meeting. Eating shitty cookies, drinking crappy coffee, sitting in cold chairs, listening to the same old shit, and sitting there and taking it. That's a meeting. Sharing, speaking out, fumbling your words, fucking up, feeling like an idiot, grinding through it, and walking out with all that off your shoulders. It's just like life. You know, I've learned, you know, that's the kind of stuff. I'm constantly scared. I'm constantly insecure. I'm constantly living in that wall of self-centered fear. And being forced into the fire is the only thing that brings that shit down. Or shame and guilt, right? I'll never forget that when I celebrate all. This is how I can tell how sick I am. When I heard that when you celebrated the first year of sobriety, and you had to sit up front at a meeting, I almost didn't want to go. I'd almost rather drink than sit up front in front of a bunch of people and share. OMG, right? And it was constantly on my mind. 3 months to go. 2 months to go. Oh my God, I'm going to have to sit up front and share. 1 month. I'm going to have to sit up front and share. Sit up front and share it might as well have been, base jump off a skyscraper. I'm going to look like an idiot. They're going to know I'm full of shit. I'm going to be completely exposed, blah, 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 blah. 1 month to go. The fear is boiling up in me. 30 days, 28, the countdown. It's this Friday. Oh, I'm not going to think about it. Oh, fuck it. I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm bailing. You're in. You got to do it. And then doing it. And when it's like the two masses come together and you finally set up, and I remember thanking myself. Thank you, self, for walking in. Part of me still believes that. I do thank myself. I do thank David. Because Tom didn't want to go. Tom was like, nope. But David's like, dude, we got to do it. You want that coin? It's interesting. I haven't always, but I've started kind of, and I don't want to sound like weirdo, but I started kind of thinking about myself in two different people. There's that self side, which is Tom. And there's the guy that's trying to do everything the opposite of Tom, which is kind of David. My name is David Thomas. That's my real name, David Thomas Arquino. And I go by Tom because my dad is a David and my older son is a David. We're like George Foreman. We're a bunch of Georges. But Tom didn't want to go. And David's like, this is a new you, bro. We got to go. We said we would. It's a commitment. And I remember walking in and the room was really full because, when you're in your first couple years, your first year, and you're into it, man, you're freaking making friends, shaking hands, the men's group, a breakfast group. We take the meetings everywhere. You build up a lot of friends, and a lot of people are rooting for you. You get that first year, man, there's cards and people to crowd, and it's just scary. One move people will say is, I'll celebrate, but I'm not telling anybody. They'll keep it a secret, right? They don't want people to know. They don't want to be in front of people. But I remember sitting up there just fucking petrified. Self is just fucking having a moment. Oh my God, what are you gonna do? You're gonna look like a fraud. Oh, so afraid. Oh man. Sitting up there and finally doing it and getting that coin, and my name is Tom, I'm an alcoholic. And I don't even remember what I said, but it coming out. bleh, bleh. And then being like, I think that's all I have. Thank you. You know, people clapped, and I'm like, oh my God. And just this wave of relief coming over me, like, oh, and just almost elevated me to a peace and a serenity that I had never felt before. Never in my life had I had that moment where what self wanted and what Tom wanted and what David wanted had come together in such a big event, a spiritual changing event, and it being as simple as me just sharing it my first year. Because it was a year of celebrating a year of not doing what I'd loved to do for so long, which was do what I wanted. But still not having any clue of anything, honestly. No clue. Don't drink, keep coming back. That I could get. You know, I told you I've shared multiple times about some of the big life-changing events for me, and that phone calling Matt was one of them. It exposed a lot of fucking childish behavior on my part. Running is another one. You know, the run, the 5 miles, every mile, 1 mile, my attitude, the second mile, my attitude, and just, it's almost like David watching Tom and going, God, dude, you are a fucking mess, bro. I can't do this. My legs hurt. I'll never make it. Nah. This all takes place before I even get my fucking shoes on. It's like sitting in a room with two chairs, one Tom, one David, and David watching Tom. And this is what all the stuff that Tom is saying, and David's just scratching his head going, what's the matter with you, man? I can't do it. I'll never make it. I'm never going to be a runner. It's too cold, too hot, too many flies, too many this, too many that's. And David going, yeah, I hear you, but come on, let's go. We committed to this. And then starting the run and being like, and wheeling and deal. All right, man, if we can get to the corner, we'll go a little farther, right? But if I don't make it if I don't feel good at the corner, I'm not finishing, all right? You know, and David's like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. And we made it to the corner, and of course, Tom was fine. And then just the thinking and the way I thought. The dirty, grimy, crummy, funky kind of thinking that it would take place in that first mile. The attack. It's like a kid just fucking wrecking his room. We don't want to do this. Let's stop. It's too far. And then, you start to get to another point and you start to see, a phase, a change, the suffering. I've suffered a mile. And all of a sudden it starts to become a little tempered, like a little, all right, we're in. All right, let's see if we can get to the bridge. All right. Voices have calmed down. But I'm not happy. But just to transition through the miles and how, like, at mile 1.7 something, I reach a bridge and I'm all of a sudden just full of gratitude. Like Tom has left the fucking room and David's there and I'm just like full of great gratitude and just how beautiful it is and how blessed I am to be alive and how just overwhelmed with the feeling, a byproduct. And this was something else that Trey and I talked about is that, gratitude, freedom, serenity, they're all byproducts for me. I can't go here and get that without doing this. I can't hover down to the bridge. I can't fly or float. I can't roll. I got to run. But any other way. And I don't get that David of me. It just stays Tom. Yeah, it's nice. The flies are bad. Or, I don't know. But understanding that and seeing how that changed in me and how recognizing that how I am so consumed with self-centered fear. And the first time I started to feel what it's like to not have that was through running or meetings or sharing or commitments. And that second mile and just feeling like, God, I think I'm going to try. I think I could make a movie. Everything I see through my eyes on the trail is like a scene. Everything I see, the shadows, the textures, the colors, the depth, the warmth, is an amazing picture to me. I'm fucking taking pictures of everything. This is amazing. But this is because I am now 2 miles into the run and I'm living in this free of self-centered fear world. Now I can do anything that I want. Or I think I can, at least. And I become a photographer, and then I start writing songs in my head and creating lyrics. It is funny. Here's an experiment. I do it all the time. I take my phone when I run, and then, I get into a couple miles, and I'll come up with ideas, and I say them into my notes. I'll come up with, a poem, a couple lines out of a poem that rhyme, and I'm like, oh, it's great. That's the beginning, and I'll say it into my, notes. And then I go back, and I was doing this. I was trying to find an old iTunes account, and I was going through my notes, and I'm finding all this shit. I'm like, what is this nonsense? It's all the shit that I write when I'm running. It's all this shit that I write down when I'm living in this world that's not consumed by self-centered fear. And it's a whole different world. And I don't remember writing it. I don't remember saying it. I don't remember any of it. It's this transformation, this transition that takes place during this suffering moment that I become a whole different person. And I try to document it in notes on my phone, and I don't recognize any of it. It's so funny. And it all comes from running. I learned it through that, experiencing it. And then when I get home and life starts to come back to normal and life starts to be an inconvenience again and everything goes crazy and that wall of self-centered fear comes up, and next thing you know, I'm back. Tom's back. And I'm a better Tom. But I'm not the David that was running and just free and wanting to be all of a sudden a farmer and live in the middle of the mountains and just, throw it all away for nothing and come home and realize, people want to eat and you need electricity and you want to have a job. And the phone call to Matt, calling at different times so that he didn't answer, so that it wasn't obvious that he hated me. That first fucking phone call, the first time he said call me and didn't answer, it showed Tom was there. Fuck him. I remember him telling me, call me every day, and I'm like, he knows I have something important to say. Didn't answer. Fuck him. How quickly I turn. I don't know. Listen, I just want to, tell Trey Downs, thank you, brother. Thanks for having me on. Check out his podcast, My Superior Self. I'll let you know if you care to see it. I think we did a video and an audio, so it'll be up eventually, and I'll post it. If you want to check it out, check out his podcast. He's a great guy. I love him. Just a guy, helping out. Man's man. A helper. A helper amongst men, I guess I wanted to say. Oh, shit, let me read. Oh, my gosh. Okay, February 19th. I'm not different. Here we go. In the beginning, it was 4 whole years before AA brought permanent sobriety to even one alcoholic woman. Like the high bottoms, the women said they were different. The skid rower said he was different. So did the artists and the professional people, the rich and poor, the religious, the agnostic, the Indians and the Eskimos, the veterans and the prisoners. Nowadays, all of these and legions more soberly talk about how very much alike all of us alcoholics are when we admit that the chips are finally down, as Bill sees at page 24. I cannot consider myself different in AA. If I do, I isolate myself from others and from contact from my higher power. If I feel isolated in AA, it is not something for which others are responsible. It is something I have created by feeling that I'm different in some way. Today I practice being just another alcoholic in the worldwide fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Just another bozo on the bus, right? I love that. You know, how many times I feel isolated. I isolate myself. It's all I. It's all self. It's all self bullshit. You know? Find that out in the rooms. I don't know. I hope everyone's having a great day. It is Friday. Enjoy the day. Stay sober. Go to a meeting. Reach out. Be there for someone, and we'll talk to you soon.